The Resident Evil series is arguably at an all-time high right now. With the release of the recent RE4 Remake, the upcoming CG Death Island movie next month, and a ton of other projects such as VR stuff, DLC, and more. But there are two major Resident Evil games that fans are really looking forward to, and that's the upcoming RE4 Remake Separate Ways DLC, as well as the highly anticipated Resident Evil 9. And man, do I got news for you. See, Capcom just announced a showcase for June 12th at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So today, I wanted to debunk some rumors that a lot of people are making, give you some details on the RE4 Remake DLC, which are actually official details, and also dive into the Capcom survey that they recently just put out, where they basically asked us what Resident Evil remakes we wanted to get next. So let's get into it.
That went well.
So let me ask you guys a question. Which Resident Evil project are you the most excited for right now? Let me take a guess. A majority of you are probably excited for the RE4 Remake Separate Ways DLC, because I know I am. And if it's not that, then you're probably excited for Resident Evil 9, which I also am excited for. So a lot of people actually, surprisingly, don't think that the Separate Ways DLC is real, but I covered this in a video in the past. But Sphere Hunter, who is very close with Capcom, confirmed on her Twitter that Separate Ways is coming soon. She made a reference to U3, who is a cut enemy in the remake. So yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say that we can expect this DLC. Now this is where it gets good. See, the Capcom showcase is happening tomorrow, at least from the day I'm posting this video, which is on a Sunday. Now keep in mind, I can't travel into the future, so if this video has some inaccurate information by tomorrow, then don't get mad at me. But here are my personal and honest predictions. Now tomorrow, I will say that I am most certainly expecting the Separate Ways DLC to get revealed. Now, I'm not like some of these YouTubers where, they're like, oh my god, guys, it's definitely happening tomorrow. There is absolutely no confirmation that the DLC is being revealed tomorrow. So in my honest predictions, it's a 50-50. But I say that you can expect the Separate Ways DLC, maybe some more information on the RE4 Remake VR mode that's coming out. And we also might hear some new information about the upcoming CG Resident Evil movie. But here's the weird part. If you actually go to the Capcom Showcase website and if you scroll down, Capcom usually shows which games are going to be featured at their showcases, but for some reason, Resident Evil 4 is not featured on this list. It shows these 3 games right here, and then at the bottom says, and more. Now look, maybe I'm looking too much into it, but I highly doubt I'm the only one thinking this. Okay, so think about it for a second, right? Like, let's use a little bit of logic here. Resident Evil 4, one of their biggest games that they've released over the past 6 months. Why would you not feature it at your showcase unless you were teasing something really massive to your audience? If I'm not mistaken, like the last 3 Capcom showcases have featured Resident Evil 4. And for those who maybe forgot, remember a while back, people actually found leaked files in the game featuring Wesker and Ada DLC. And I'm not too sure about this. I heard this somewhere on Twitter, but apparently the Ada Wong and Albert Wesker mods that people made for the RE4 Remake, apparently Capcom shut those down. And as most of you guys know, Capcom usually doesn't shut down fan projects like that. Also, don't quote me on this, but didn't Capcom also shut down the Code Veronica and Resident Evil 1 fan remakes? See, a lot of people tell me, what are you doing, Rapid Crafter? Don't get, don't overhype yourself, all right? Nothing's confirmed. Here's the thing. If you use just a little bit of logic, if you look into the history of Capcom, and if you think about game development itself, you can kind of put 2 and 2 together. Game developers would not shut down these types of projects if they weren't going to release their own versions of them. And I'm sure that you guys have heard already, but Capcom put out a survey and they basically ask a ton of other questions. But at the end of the survey, they actually ask us what Resident Evil games that we want to get remakes from going forward. Personally, I want to see Resident Evil Code Veronica and Resident Evil Outbreak get a remake. Code Veronica was a game that I've only played a very small amount of times, but I really love the atmosphere in that game, and I think it really would do great in a remake. And also Resident Evil Outbreak, specifically the first game. I think it would be so cool to have a Resident Evil game that is focused on co-op in the RE engine, but you could also play it single player if you wanted to. If Capcom made a Resident Evil Outbreak where I could play with my friends, but I could also play solo offline, then Capcom can take my money in a heartbeat. But look, as much as I love remakes and DLC and VR stuff, I really want to see where this franchise is going forward, and this is where I want to hear your thoughts, because I've never really asked you guys, like, where do you guys think this franchise is going forward? This kind of leads into the recent Resident Evil 9 rumors, but I think about a month ago or maybe more, Resident Evil 9 supposedly got leaked. And I don't know where this came from or who started this like trend, but there's so many people who are like, Resident Evil 9 is going to be featured at the Capcom showcase. And I'm like, where's your source? Resident Evil 9 is a mainline entry. It's not a remake. It's not DLC. It's not just something that you can shove into another mix of games that they're trying to showcase. I'm calling it right now. Resident Evil 9 is going to be revealed at the PlayStation State of Play in June of 2024. And the reason why I say 2024 is because I don't think we're going to see this game until 2025. But we'll talk more about that in a few. But now you're probably asking, okay, when can we expect some of this stuff? I don't work for Capcom. These are just simple predictions. That's it. RE4 Remake Separate Ways / Mercenaries DLC. When can we expect it? Well, I'm going to state the obvious and say sometime in late 2023 and at the latest early 2024. Now, the reason why I say this is because think about the Shadows of Rose DLC for Resident Evil 8. The Shadows of Rose DLC took about a little over a year to make, but think about it. Capcom had to make a lot of new assets for that game, so it obviously took more time. But guys, remember, when Resident Evil 8 came out, DLC was not planned for the game. Capcom didn't start working on DLC until after fans demanded that they wanted more content. Whereas with the RE4 Remake, Capcom most certainly had Separate Ways planned before the full game came out. So they probably were working on it before the game even released. So if you consider the fact that Capcom has been working on this before the RE4 Remake was released, and also the fact that they have most of the assets already made, I'm gonna take a shot in the dark and say that we are getting the DLC this year. But that leads us into Resident Evil 9. When can we expect that game? Well, just like a lot of people, I can't see us getting that game until at least 2025. And I can almost guarantee that Resident Evil 9 is not getting announced this year. So that leaves the big question. If Resident Evil 9 isn't supposedly releasing until 2025, then what's in store for the Resident Evil franchise in 2024? But now I want to know what you guys think. What are your predictions? Because I genuinely want to know what you guys think about this franchise going forward. What are you excited for? What are you not excited for? And what are you expecting going forward? And hey, consider subscribing if you're new around here, and drop a like on this video if you enjoyed. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time.